Okay, welcome back to another video. We're going to be looking at the Hebrew letter Daleth this time and how it relates to everything we've been talking about. In the occult world, Daleth is the door. It opens the door to the imagination. So what is Daleth? It's the letter D in English. It's the Greek delta, which means change. It has a gematria value of 4, and it's shaped like the doorway. And you can see this is also kind of alluding to the Passover blood of the Lamb over the doors to keep the angel of death away. So lots of places that this letter goes. The door is the entryway into the world of symbols. It also means in Hebrew the poor man, the weak or helpless one, Dalah. In tarot, the door, or the Daleth, is corresponding to the Empress card 3. So what do we have? We have humanity, or the sons of man, are the door through which the higher self, or the sons of God, incarnate to create soul. And that's coming from Paul Foster Case. On the Kabbalistic tree, so remember each card corresponds to a path on the tree, 22 cards, 22 letters, 22 paths. So Daleth, letter D, the Empress, corresponding to the path between the Holy Mother and Holy Father, Chokhmah and Binah, Sephirah 2 and 3. And you'll notice also Gimel, the path right before it, going down from the crown all the way down through Da'ath to the beauty or Tipereth down at your navel. The reason I bring up Gimel is, so in Hebrew it goes Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, so we have G and D right next to each other, which is of course the spelling of God, so we have God right there in the alphabet. And curious enough, in English we have Christ in the alphabet, Q-R-S-T-U, Christu. Let's look at some words and decode their meaning through the symbols, through the letters, and their corresponding tarot symbols. So for example, Da'ath, which as we touched on, is right here in the middle of the throat, connecting the crown chakra to Tipereth, so the Divine Father from the Divine Son, or your soul, down here in Tipereth. What is this? So Daleth is the fall through incarnation. The soul incarnates from the top of the tree and goes down, the bottommost chakra being the human body or the vessel. So incarnation is a fall through the Da'ath portal. Da'ath is in the throat, the speech, the word of God made flesh. Da'ath is also known as the door to the abyss, because the upper triad is the ineffable Trinity. We can't know it, so there's an abyss or a gulf that separates the lower from the higher. Nevertheless, your higher ego, which is one with that divine spark or divine self, or the holy guardian angel, does indeed fall, or at least a part of it falls through the portal into incarnation. So in the word we have D as, so the word Dath, we have D, Daleth, which is the doorway or the creative imagination in tarot. We have the letter Ayin, which is card 15, the devil or the deceiver. So what is this? The doorway to the deceiver. And then the letter Taf is the world, or the final card 21. So through the deceiver, the soul can get in touch with the real world, the world beyond appearances, beyond Maya. But only going through the devil and learning his tricks and ways can the soul, can the creative imagination flourish in the real world? Notice the Empress, she's flourishing, she's growing the wheat, which is the bread, which is the Christ, the soul. And in this card here, the world, we have the 4 fixed signs, as I mentioned in the last video, which is the eternal body, the 4 fixed signs in the zodiac. So that's what we're building. We're building the eternal body by going through the incarnation process, the fall through Daleth. So Daleth is the portal through which the incarnating spirit must align to his higher self, the Christos, or else reject this and align with his lower ego, the animal, Satan, as the goat hybrid or Baphomet figure. So that's why the satanic figure is always part animal, because it's the representation of the fall to the lower ego, the animal lusts and drives, which we must overcome. That's why Adam and Eve here are in chains, but if you notice, the chains are easily overcome if they just lift the chains off their head. So it's humanity in their ignorance that's keeping themselves chained to the beast. Knowledge of this is the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So Da'ath means knowledge or gnosis. The wreath in the world card is shaped like the Vesica Pisces, so the womb or the vaginal opening. Again, because this is the entry gate for souls as they fall from Kether down into Tipereth, or into the world below. So this is also the Da'ath portal into the spirit world, back up the tree to the kingdom of heaven. Once you've done the good work, that's this figure is dancing inside the portal. So she's done the good work. It's actually a hermaphrodite, because he has aligned the 2 polar sexes, or united the twins, you could say. And we each carry the male and female archetypes within, which must be reunited as we go back up. And this is the dance that we do. So this figure is dancing. The letter Kaf around her is the grasping hand. So she's grasped the fixed eternal body of the 4 fixed signs. Every soul must run through the signs as they develop their fixed eternal body. Let's look at the letter the word Eden. We have Upper and Lower Eden, the Garden of Eden. The Empress sits in the garden. So we have the letter Ayin. So first we have the deceiver, which we saw earlier. Then we have Daleth again, so together. And then we have Nun, the last letter, Eden. So this is this deceptive world of matter holds the door to the seed of new life. So very similar symbology to the word Da'ath. So letter Nun means fish. It's also none, the no thing, right? That's where we get the word none, nothing. It's from Nun. But Nun is also the seed. It's the sperm, which swims to the egg. So it's not just death, it's transition from one form to another. It's also birth of new life. That's why the river behind this Grim Reaper is flowing back to the sun representing spirit or new life. So the seed. What is this loss of innocence when we're kicked out of Eden? It's nothing but knowledge of sin, which is attained through this fall, through the abyss. We go through this portal of no space or no time, this void space, which is infinite knowledge. So we pick it up, but you can't hold on to that, because that's would drive you insane. So now we have to piece it back together down here in the lower worlds, piece back the gnosis which shattered. As our vessel, it can't hold all that. So it has to rebuild the knowledge which we all have buried in our subconscious. Some beings don't align with spirit or the Christ within, and rather align, like I said earlier, with the lower ego. These are called the Black Brotherhoods. And essentially they are now stuck in this Daathian void space or portal, which in Qabalah that's the Klipoth. So Daath is the doorway to the back of the tree, or the infernal lower Sephiroth, called the Klipoth. So they are manifesting the evil, which is a necessary counterpart to the light side of the tree at the top. That's why death is, or Daath is where we get the word death, because these black brotherhoods are basically decaying, and as they do, they play the gatekeepers. They're the ones in charge here. They're the elite, because they have direct access to Da'ath, which is infinite knowledge, but only because God granted them that, as they play the role of gatekeeper, or testing the rest of us, testing our merit and strength. Let's look at the word Adam, or Adam, which Adam also means earth or dirt. So we are the man of dirt, man of the earth, sons of man, and then there's the sons of God, which is our spirit. So we must always keep this duality in mind when we talk of Adam. So we have now the letter Aleph, which is the Fool, which is the divine spirit, the fire. We have, again, letter Daleth, and then Mem, which is water, or also water is always a type for matter, the material world. So altogether, putting that together, we have Daleth is the door between Aleph, or the fire spirit realm, heaven, and Mem, water, matter, the physical earth, and the physical body. Adamic man is thus the crossing of spirit and matter, and this, if you read Alvin Boyd Kuhn, he's all about this. He's written tons of books on this connection of spirit and matter, how it's hidden in the alphabet. For example, the alphabet always starts with fire, Aleph, A, and in the middle of the alphabet we have the liquids, the LMNO, the elements, L, liquid, M, mem, maim, water, and nun, or the letter N, is nautical, navy, naval, again, all water imagery. And the letter mem in tarot is the suspended man, the hanged man, and you can see how his shirt is blue like water, and he's also suspended over what looks like a river, so connecting to water. In the Alphabet of Qabalah website, glorion.org, which is where I got this quote, they talk about how the letter Daleth in Arabic is Dal, which means the poor man. Also in Sanskrit, I believe, it means the poor man. And the poor man eats porridge, which is interesting. So in Sanskrit, the basic word for poor people is called dal. Poor is where we get the word porridge. Here I'm reading here. We all look at such food as if we are above that. Thus we want to eat expensive, rich food, as if it proves our value. But the truth is that as rich as we may be in the physical world, and no matter how good our food is, if we don't have God within, then we are poor spiritually. And this is why we suffer. So the poor man, letter D, is the hanged man, or M, in Adam, the man of the dust of the earth. He's got his head suspended over the dust. But suspending the mind, which is suspending the lower animal propensities, the lower ego, It awakens the Christ spirit, or Aleph, the fool, the letter A in Adam, inside. Then we are rich, like the quote in Matthew. We're building up our treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust can corrupt. So the interesting connection, the letter Gimel coming before the letter Daleth in the alphabet, Gimel Daleth, GD, God. So the Zohar states that Gimel can never be separated from Daleth. They need each other. That is, our innermost spirit, which is Gimel, cannot be separated from the terrestrial or poor man, Daleth, the poor man who eats porridge. This sounds strange to Westerners. God, Gimel, our innermost, is the son of God, and Daleth is the son of man, which we have to reunite these two poles. And of course, God backwards is dog, so the animal, if we don't do the good work and we become an animal, then we reverse God, we become a dog, a filthy mongrel, as the dogs are. Dogs in the Bible are always have a negative connotation, because it's a reversal of God. Reading again, to become Daleth, one has to become a perfect expression of the inner being, Gimel. So Daleth is the door to Gimel. Gimel and Daleth together spell God. In Hebrew we would say Gad. Gad means to tell or to speak. And how else does God create but through Daleth, which is in the throat, or Da'ath? Okay, Gad, which means to speak, the word of God made flesh. And also the Hebrew word for speak is medaber, which again you can see the letter Daleth there. And it's also an anagram of Adam. Adam is hidden in that word. Sometimes in these symbol codes you flip letters upside down, so if you flip the D in Gad, you get Gab, which is in English the gift of Gab. It's the gift of speech. And funny enough, my name is Gabriel, so I have the Gab right there. And Gabriel, the angel, was God's messenger, who had the gift of speech to impart God's wisdom. Let's look at a few other words that combine the G and the D. We have the word goad, like an ox goad. To goad someone into action is to provoke someone, to drive them on, urge them on. We have a guide, so it's all about higher forces stimulating or provoking a lower force, like the animal, right? The ox is goaded along, the farm animals. An ox goad is also a stick, a spiked stick for driving the cattle. So that stick is the fool, it's the top of the tree, it's the innermost spirit. That's the letter G. It's provoking the terrestrial man, or D, Daleth, the poor man, driving him on to build him up, building up his spirit. He's the guide, right? He's the spirit guide. And it's you, it's your own spirit guide, your holy guardian angel. So the spirit guides come in like fish, they swim like sperm down through the door, the portal of Daleth. So the symbolism in the ancient scriptures is always of a fish spirit expelling water out of its mouth, expelling the great river of life. So this is the great fish mother, or Dagon. Again, DG. The sperm is also, again, the letter Nun, which is our card transition here, the Grim Reaper, reaping the treasures that don't rust or rot, right? The treasures of heaven. That's what he's reaping down here. That's why this character has a crown. He's reaping the crown, the treasures. So the symbolism, so card 13 is also the Scorpio, which is the genitals, which tells us that God creates sexually on all levels, reuniting or using the tension of the polar male and female archetypes, using that to create. It happens on all levels. In Egypt, the missing phallus of Osiris represents the perfected man, and that's actually this appendage here of the letter Gimel. If you align the letter to the spine, this is the phallic piece in the letter Gimel. So Osiris, his missing phallus, when man has become a perfect vehicle for the higher self, then the phallus is found by Isis. It's reconstituted.